Welcome to episode 3 of the Modern Adolescent podcast. So excited to be here. It feels like a long time since we've talked, which, I mean, it has been. I have been working on the Modern Adolescence website, which took a little longer than I expected to just figure out, but that is up. So check it out, www.modernadolescence.com. If you don't watch the podcast from there, it stores all the podcasts as well as a couple of soon-to-be blog posts. What my goal is with that website is basically giving you guys, teenagers, the ability to write posts about mental health, about what teens are going through, like kind of that sort of topic. Send them to me. I obviously have to approve them to put them on the website, and kind of just creating this board of kind of ideas from teenagers, kind of experiences, kind of just to provide some support for other teenagers. You know, you can go listen to the podcast on the website, hear teen stories through the podcast, but you can also then go read a blog post, or you can learn about this different topic that maybe wasn't covered that week. You know, in starting Modern Adolescence and starting this podcast, I've realized I can't really get episodes up as fast as I would like. I'm still, a full-time student doing all this other work, maintaining the website, all that other stuff. So what episodes are going to be a little bit further apart, kind of what they are, well, hopefully a little closer than what they have been together, just so I'm able to maintain my own mental health. But still, I am committed to the website. I am committed to this podcast. It's just going to be a little further apart, quality over quantity. You don't want me to come on here, record a 5-minute podcast episode and just upload it. Like, that wouldn't work. So it's going to be a little further apart than originally intended. But that's just kind of how you adjust to life, I guess. So this week's podcast episode has to do with this kind of peculiar thing that has been going on kind of really just this year. It's really kind of a unique experience that basically every teenager is going through currently, and that is the adjustment from going remote learning, hybrid learning, to what we're doing in the 2021-22 school year, which is fully in person. Extracurriculars are back. Everything is just going. And I think a lot of people, when transitioning to this model, didn't really realize, the amount of work, the amount of pressure that comes from 5 days of school. We did it for so long, and it was just kind of part of our daily lives. And then suddenly they were like, here's a break. Here's a 1.5 year break. Obviously, you're still doing work, you're still using your brain, but it's not in the same way. And now they're like, okay, now you're back 100%. Here you go. Here's your work, do it. And a lot of people, and I can speak for myself, it's been a tough adjustment. Going back to this 5-day model, going back to all your extracurriculars, doing all of your work, doing everything to your best ability. And then on top of that, I'm a senior in high school, so I'm also doing the college process. So all of this together, it's been a hard adjustment. And I think that's something that teenagers kind of either are just trying to put their head down, persist through this kind of time, or they're really struggling. And having that support, whether that be from schools or from an extracurricular or from your parents or something like that, is I think something that a lot of teenagers need right now to just be successful in this year. You're going to see a lot of teenagers that feel burnt out or just not there. I know I do currently, and I think having some form of adjustment period or support during this time is probably what a lot of teenagers need right now. But it's been a tough adjustment. So I knew that this personally was a tough adjustment for me, but I did obviously want to hear from other teenagers about whether this is just kind of a me thing, or is this, something that's going on with a lot of people. So I sent out a survey. 13 people responded to the survey, which is fine. So I asked, how would you rate your workload last year? And one question on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the most. And then how would you rate your workload this year? So for the workload last year, About 60% or 8 of the 13 rated it 2 to 3. So 2 and 3. So kind of mid-range amount of work. And then 3 people rated it 4 and 2 people rated it 5. So no one rated it 1. It wasn't like we weren't doing any work last year, but the majority of people were kind of at the middle and below. And for how you would rate your workload this year, it is literally a linear graph. So no one said 1. No one said we aren't doing any work. But almost 69% of people rated it 4 or above for the workload this year. 3 people rated it a 3. 2 people rated it, 1 person rated it a 1. So you can see there's this kind of, it's almost like a negative and a positive slope on this graph where majority of people are moving from the 2 to 3 range to the 4 to 5 range for the workload. And you can see that definitely increase in workload, it can have an effect on people. And that's, something that we're really not used to is that adjustment. So of course I had to ask, do you feel as though the adjustment has had an effect on you? And 84% said yes. So 2 people on the survey said no. The rest were like, yes, it has had an effect on me, which I think is clear just to show that it's not, it's not just me. It's kind of more other people are going through it too. But also there are people who just kind of are like, like I'm doing it. So of course I asked, people who said yes to kind of elaborate a little more. And a lot of people said the stamina of a 5-day week, which I 100% agree. I'm waking up on like Wednesday and I'm like, why isn't the week over? I'm like, I'm doing all of this work. It just feels like my days are kind of blending together. Like yesterday was a Friday and I went to school and it was like second period, third period. And I was like, oh, it's Friday. You know what I mean? It wasn't like the event of Friday. It was like, oh, my life is school. So that was very interesting and reassuring to see. But also it's just a lot of people being like the amount of tests, the amount of quizzes, I have no free time kind of deal, and which I can completely understand. So when asked if people received proper support for what they needed, 3 people said yes, 5 people said somewhat, 5 people said no. So 10 people said they weren't 100% getting the support that they needed. So that is kind of staggering that, people are kind of just going at this alone, which obviously isn't the best thing to do in an adjustment like this. And just mostly a lot of people, when asked, what can be done better for students, said more support from teachers, more support from adults, just less stress all at once is what basically everyone said, which definitely can do a damper. And so looking at all of this data, it really does say a lot about, how kids are really adjusting to this school year, and that, this isn't a universal thing. Some people are just doing just fine, but a lot of people are feeling that this is, kind of a jump that is hard to adjust to. So this week, I don't have much more to say by myself, but I had the privilege to interview one of my friends, Niki Ram, who is honestly one of the kindest people I've ever met. She's literally like a light, like it's amazing, about kind of this adjustment. And we had a great conversation that went on for a fairly long time. So I want to get right to that because I think it really explains kind of the bulk of what this adjustment has been like for her and for probably a lot of teenagers. So I'm here with Niki Ram. So Niki is a student at my high school. Hello.
Hi.
Honestly, I must say, like, you are probably, like, the most, like, friendly, like, kindest person I've ever met. Like, I'm not joking about this. Like, just, like, your presence brings, like, happiness. And I'm so excited to have you on right now. Like, I'm very excited, actually. So we're going to talk kind of just about what has, like, the adjustment been like for kind of going from this kind of hybrid or fully remote option at school, and it was kind of, like a low stress environment, to coming back to being in a 5-day week model, and what that's been like. And also we do happen to be seniors, so kind of what that stress has been like on our senior year. So the first question I got to ask is kind of just, what has this been like for you, this adjustment, from our school was a hybrid model, to, now 5 days a week in person, extracurriculars are going, what has that kind of been like?
Yeah, so I gotta say the change from hybrid to full in person was definitely really hard for me, just because we were only at school for a certain amount of times and we were at home a lot. So we had like that adjustment of doing stuff at home and figuring out what we have to do at home compared to the stuff we have to do at school. And also just like waking up has been so hard recently. I don't know if it's just me, but waking up has been probably the hardest thing. Just that, literally.
I 100% agree. Like, I will wake up and just like sit in my bed for 15 minutes and just be like, okay, like you gotta get out.
Yeah. It's totally tough. It's tough. And then now with like extracurriculars, like sports and everything running full time now, and they don't really have as many restrictions. You really, as seniors, we have to try to like manage our time more. Like, I know for my sport, I have to stay at school for like 2 hours or 3 hours, and trying to manage that with the workload of a senior is not easy, but it's definitely been a switch for sure.
Yeah, I mean, just like going to school 5 days a week, I forgot how like draining it is in a way. Like, I'm waking up on like Wednesday and I'm like, oh my God, there's like 3 more days to school left.
It's so weird now, and I think our school does like a drop schedule rotation. So now with the new schedule, we always have to drop a period. And sometimes for me, like I forget that I have to drop a specific class, and I do all my homework and I study really hard before the day, and I go to school and I realize I don't even have that period. It's like you totally forget stuff now with all the new changes, and it's so weird.
Yeah, and we were there when we originally had the like drop schedule prior to COVID. Like what I've been seeing with the freshmen and the sophomore who never had that experience is kind of just this like complete 180 shift, and there's definitely been some confusion going around kind of at the beginning of this year. So I have to ask, what is kind of the most notable difference that you found kind of going into this like new schedule? Because I know sports were running before, obviously we were going to school, there were options, but like what has kind of been the biggest shift that you've been kind of handling? Yeah,
so I think the biggest shift for me probably was how like the desks were orientated. I don't know about anybody else's schools, but our schools, we had that 6 feet distance between everyone, and now we have our like commons area that's completely like you can go in there and eat lunch there. You don't have to be 6 feet anymore, and it's like it's so different now because you're sitting like so much closer with each other, and you forget that like how it is like when it was like that. For me, I think that's probably the biggest change. And maybe workload. There was, I think during hybrid learning, teachers were a lot more flexible when it came to like, I'm like saying like, I'm not able to finish my work right now. Like, could I get an extension? And now like, I feel like teachers are accepting, and they do want us to still feel like, we can talk and, talk to them. But it almost feels like they've made the switch a little too quickly for us. And it's like, go, 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 which is, it can be tough, and it can make us feel burnt out sometimes.
I 100% agree. And I have to say about that lunch thing, I was sitting in the cafeteria like first day of school, and I was like just looking at all the people, and I was like, this is insane. Like, I wasn't used to just like seeing people talking, because when we were in rows, it was just like silent lunch. And just kind of seeing that, I was happy in a way that it was happening, but then I was also like, I was nervous because I hadn't seen like that many people together in such a long time.
It was so weird. And also like the senior plaza was open for us, so seniors were able to go outside, and then we like all of our privileges as seniors. I think honestly we're really lucky as a class because we are able to get a lot of those privileges, like the senior plaza, the high tables at lunch. And it's awesome, but it's also like so weird. Once you come from like a different type of schooling to this, it almost feels like crazy.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I like agree with that so much. But so just kind of talking about like you personally, how has this kind of affected like you yourself, like your mental health and just kind of just your everyday approach to school?
Yeah. I think hybrid learning, compared to a lot of other people, it was honestly a time for me to like learn more about myself. When I was a student before hybrid learning, I think I took advantage of a lot of stuff, especially when it came to like studying and a lot of other things. Hybrid learning kind of taught me to like get all my things done first, like get my checklist out, check everything off. And then switching to fully in person, it was a lot for me, I think, because I didn't have that big checklist to check everything off and just get everything done. It was more of like that slow and steady pace, which is helpful at times and it can feel good, but also it's just like things start to pile up a lot and it can feel really overwhelming. I don't know about you, but like senior year, it's like a huge shift right now, and like with college apps and doing everything and more, it feels like a lot, and almost it sometimes feels like you don't know what to do first. Like I don't know what to prioritize. I don't know if I should prioritize doing my homework right now, or I don't know if I should prioritizing finishing my college application right now. And that kind of makes you feel like, for me, what makes me feel the most overwhelmed is that just not knowing what to do first.
Yeah, definitely. And I think while I was in hybrid learning, it was like I try to get my work done kind of earlier in the day. Like I would do my work like around noonish, let's be real. But now like I don't have the time to do work during daylight hours, like because I'm in school. So now I'm like at home and I'm doing work at like 8 p.m. and it's just exhausting. I feel like I'm just, it's kind of tough for me just to do work that late at night. And I feel definitely like once I'm getting my homework done, it's like I don't have the energy left in me to like do a college application or like just like do any like other work. And it's finding that balance between getting my work done that's like due tomorrow and getting my college apps done that are due in November. It's been a struggle, and it's definitely tough finding time now to get all my work done.
Yeah, same with me. I did the same thing as you. I tried to like make my school day as similar to like as if I were at school when I was doing hybrid learning. So I would like wake up, and for me, I would, just so that I wouldn't feel distracted, I'd have to like put my phone away, maybe do a time lapse so that I could just get my work done. And I was so used to doing my work that early in the morning and getting everything done probably at like 12 or something, I was done. And now I have to finish the school day at like 2:30. I have my I have sports after, and then I come back home, it's like 7:30, and now I have to eat dinner, and like it's like I start my homework at 9 o'clock now. So what is the best time? Like for me, I can't even figure out what the best time to do my work is. So I get what you're saying 100%.
Yeah, and so just kind of talking about the fact that we're seniors, what has been kind of your experience starting the college application process on top of like this new schedule and all this change? Like what has going into a senior year, like even just like the mentality of being a senior, been like coming off of, this hybrid learning model? Yeah.
So I think personally, if it wasn't for that one day we had in the summer, I think it was called Nuts and Bolts Night. Wait, no, not Nuts and...
Oh, Application Boot Camp.
Application Boot Camp. That's what it was. Application Boot Camp, I wouldn't have started my applications if it wasn't for that day. I honestly, like, I started my common application and started everything that day. And then also I had the support of my older brother. My older brother went through the whole college application process around 4 years ago. And so he was like a great person for me to kind of like figure out, like, what should I be doing now? What should I be, like, doing later? What should I be, like, finishing now? And that was great. But it's also so different now than it was 4 years ago. Like, now we have those new things, like, we're test optional. Like, you don't need those SAT scores. And I don't know about you, but I've taken the SAT, like, way too many times. Like, I'm done. I'm so done. But, yeah, so there's those, like, differences, and I feel like that's also something that gives so much anxiety to us students, because we don't know, should we be sending our test scores? Should we not be sending our test scores? So, yeah, I think those two, like, that day and my brother was probably my best go-to, but other than that, I feel like, honestly, I would be lost as a student, because the college application process is so confusing. And yeah, that's for me.
I 100% agree. And also, I feel like with the college application process, you know, you end up talking to so many different people kind of just about what's, like, going on and what you should be doing. And they're all giving you different answers. And I think it's kind of just finding what's working best for yourself. That's kind of the hardest thing to do. Like, kind of just, like, looking at, like, a 3-year retrospective of yourself and being like, this is, like, my strengths, or this is kind of what I want to present, is tough, because you're having all these people, you know, telling you to go different ways. And I think this is kind of different, but I feel like what I've been struggling the most is, like, the idea that I'm a senior in high school. Is that because we're coming off of just like, I feel like I skipped junior year.
Yep, same with me.
Yeah, so this idea that, like, I'm a senior in high school, next year I'm going to college, like, people in my grade are turning 18, like, that is just so weird to me. And just, like, thinking of, like, how I thought of my seniors as when I was a freshman, and the fact that I'm that now, it doesn't feel real or right. And it's kind of that adjustment that, like, okay, so you are a senior in high school, you do have to do your college apps. That's definitely a struggle that I've encountered.
Like, I remember taking my senior pictures and I was like, wait, this is weird. This is really weird. This doesn't seem right. And, like, for everything, like, when I'm, like, sitting in the senior plaza, I'm like, wait, I'm that. Like, I get that privilege. Like, what? It's so weird.
I'm just, going into senior year is just it's a whirlwind, honestly, right now. So, just kind of talking about that whirlwind, even not seniors, even other students in high school, what do you think that schools could be doing to kind of better assist, or have been doing to better assist students going from this, like, kind of crazy shift from hybrid learning to fully in person?
Yeah, I think that schools and teachers and, like, administration should kind of allow students to slowly get back into, like, their work, because, like, for me, I know that the biggest thing that could have helped me in the beginning of the school year is if they kind of slowly brought back the workload instead of just crashing everything at you at once. Like, I had 2 tests on the first day of school. Like, instead of that, and just showing the kids, like, we're gonna get back to it, like, together, and not all at once, and not just putting everything all at once at you. I think that if they just lessen the workload just a bit and just taught students, like, to just be proactive students and ask for what you need, and that, I think everyone else would have such an enjoyable school year. When we have these, like, forceful, like, situations where you just have too much work on you, you never do your best. Like, for me, if I have 4 tests the next day, I know that I'm gonna probably do 1 good and everything else I'm probably gonna do bad on.
I 100% agree. Yeah.
Right? So it's so hard when I know that teachers, it's hard for them to communicate together, and because everyone has different teachers, but I just wish that they understood that there's some kids that have those situations. They have 4 or 5 tests every single day, and just sometimes just taking a class period to just maybe, like, relax, maybe color, maybe read, maybe watch a movie together, maybe, like, take your work, like, your lesson, make it a movie, watch a movie for like, those kind of like lessons are probably my favorite ones to be at, just because you're with your table group and you're just having fun. Like you're not worried about my test next period. I'm in the moment, and I think that's so important, just being in the moment, because when all you can think about is the future, like that's all we can do as seniors right now. All we're thinking about is the future. When we're in the moment and we're just only worrying about that class, I think that makes us the best students. Like, that's, like, I don't know.
I 100% agree with what you just said, like, so much. Like, the other day, I had a couple classes where they were like, we're gonna watch a movie, or we're gonna relax and all this stuff. And I almost cried. I was like, this is exactly what I need. Because especially days where I don't have a study, like, I have a full schedule right now, it's a lot. And if it's just kind of like go in each class, by the end of the day, you can't anymore.
Yep. I agree.
Like, so just having that, like, either some sort of break or just better communication with your teachers, kind of just, like, forming kind of a trust and understanding. And I know some of my teachers are very much, like, talk to me about this, like, do all that. And that can kind of also be hard for some people to have that original conversation that's like, hey, I'm super stressed out. I need to do this test. Like, can I have an extension? Or I just want to let you know, like, this is going on. That's really tough for some students to kind of admit at first. And I think maybe, like, normalizing the, like, conversation about that might be the best step to kind of improving, you know, the student experience in high school.
I completely agree. I can say I was probably one of those students. I hated to ask teachers for an extension, or I think that my first time even asking a teacher for an extension was last year, and saying, like, I need this break. I need to work on myself mentally, and if I don't, it's just not going to be good for me. And that's all that matters right now, is how I am right now. And when I asked my teacher for an extension, like, I didn't realize a lot of teachers are really, really accepting. Like, they really want you to give in your best work. And if you're not able to give in your best work, an extension is not a problem at all. Like, they will understand that. And I know that I used to be that student that would be so upset, be like, oh, the teacher doesn't think I'm working hard enough. They don't think that I'm not putting enough time once the deadline was there. But in reality, they understand that we're not robots. Like, we're human. We are human, and we're going to have a lot of things outside of school to worry about. And sometimes you need to prioritize those first. And I think those conversations, exactly what you said, those conversations with them, they care more about that than you submitting your work on time.
Yes, 100%.
That's what I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, like, I agree with everything that you've, like, said in this conversation. Like, really, I do believe, like, having an honest conversation with your teachers, because this is, you know, a really tough time for a lot of people, making this giant switch and kind of going back to normal life, and making sure that you're having those honest conversations and that you're doing everything you can to set yourself up for success is the best thing. And obviously putting your health, your mental health, before, you know, your grades or your extracurriculars or anything, that stuff comes first always. And just kind of realizing what you need to do for yourself is, I would say, the most important thing. That was all the questions that I had for you today.
Okay.
Oh my goodness. I am so happy you came onto the podcast today. I feel like we had a great conversation kind of just about what's going on currently. So yeah, I really extend my thank yous.
Thank you. This is incredible. I'm not gonna lie. This is probably the coolest thing I've ever done this entire year.
Oh my goodness. So yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much to Niki. That really, that conversation was amazing. I love talking to her. We've talked for so long after that too. She's great. Love her. So kind of just to close it off, I mean, there definitely is this kind of gap between last year and this year that a lot of people are navigating and trying to adjust to. And I really do think it's important to, you know, realize your own your own limits, you know, where you need to be. You're probably not the same as someone else. Everyone has different things that, you know, they struggle with. And if this adjustment is something that's really affecting you, valid, completely valid. Seek out resources that you need if you're feeling that way, because basically everyone wants you to succeed and wants to help you when it comes to school systems and this kind of adjustment to hybrid learning. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast today. I really, really appreciate it. Make sure to check out the Modern Adolescence website. And if you want to write for Modern Adolescence, fill out that form that's on the website, send me that email, and I will get that all set for you. If you want to be on the podcast, make sure to contact me. But yeah, that was the episode.